Hey there, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the podcast. My name is Daniel Trinham, and I will be your host as always. Before we get started with today's episode, I want to let you know of a few things of note. First, you may or may not be aware that I host another podcast called The Third Seat. The Third Seat is unrelated to the podcast you are listening to right now, but if you'd like to check it out, then I will put a link in the description of today's episode that you can use to listen to it. If you like this podcast, then I really think you will like The Third Seat as well, so I highly recommend you check it out. Next, I want to let you know of a few ways you can support the podcast. First, be sure to tell a friend if you enjoy the show. Word of mouth is not only a great way to help support the show, but it's also zero cost. Secondly, if you enjoyed today's episode, then be sure to leave a 5-star review wherever you get your podcasts. Leaving a positive review is one of the best ways of not only supporting the show, but it also gives me direct feedback from you regarding how you feel about the show overall. I greatly appreciate if you decide to take the time to support the show in any of these ways. Finally, if you'd like to follow me or the show on social media, then feel free to check out the description of today's episode. Here you will find all affiliated and mentioned links, as well as how you can support the show online. As always, I want to thank you for tuning into and supporting the show. It really means a lot to me, and I hope you enjoyed today's episode as much as I enjoyed making it for you. All right, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the podcast. My name is Daniel Trinham. I will be your host for today, as always. And I'm excited for my guest today. I'm excited for you all to hear from him. He is an individual that I technically met for the first time, I believe, back in April. My, at the time, girlfriend, now I can say this, now fiance, we were going to a cooking class here in Chattanooga, and the head chef that was there, he was leading the class, and it was a French cooking class. And I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, we did French onion soup, which was actually the first time I'd ever had French onion soup, and I enjoyed it a lot. We did ratatouille and some kind of fish. I believe it was trout. And it was great. And I remember leaving that time, and I looked at my girlfriend. And I said, "I really liked our chef. I would love to be his friend, just talk to him, you know." She was like, "Well, you should reach out to him." And so here today, I have the pleasure of speaking to that said chef. So, Chef Ted, thank you very much for chatting with me today.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. It's good. It's good to be in. I'm pretty excited for this podcast.
Yeah.
And so I'm just gonna pass the ball to your court. Anything you want me to start with there? And
yeah. Well, before we start, I know I told you a little bit about just the fact that you are a chef, but aside from that, do you care to just give a little bit of an introduction of yourself and what you do, and just a little bit of a backstory about who you are and how you got to where you are, if you don't mind?
Yeah, no. So I'm Ted Marris. A lot of people know me as Chef Ted that come to the classroom. And so I go by either names in those regards. It happens quite a bit in the grocery store. I run into people like that.
I feel like that's what I need to refer to you as now.
Yeah,
you know?
And it's the same way with most people that work for a vendor that comes by. They know me as that. And so that was a weird hurdle to get over at first. Just having that attached to your name.
Yeah.
It's I don't want to say it's a doctor or something, but when someone calls you Dr. So-and-so or something, I bet that's a hurdle.
You have Mr. Johnson in 4th grade. It's he's always going to be Mr. Johnson to you now, you know?
Yeah, and then 10 years later, you're "Hey, Bill."
Yeah.
But no, I've been working in the classroom for just over 4 years. Started out just kind of volunteering. Mm-hmm. And so I maybe volunteered once or twice a month. Mm-hmm. And then after that, it just I started doing, we had clubs back then. Hopefully they make a comeback here in some way or another, which were kind of a cool activity. But I did the clubs. I was talking with Chef Jeff. He's our owner there. And I was like, "Hey, would it be weird to do 2 clubs at the same time?" Mm-hmm. And he's like, "Oh, you like it here, don't you?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's kind of a cool thing." You probably had that experience.
Yeah.
And by the end of that class, he was like, "So, do you want to work here?" And from that's how I started volunteering out. And, so I'd come to my club once a month, and then, I'd be there the other weeks, just once. And then next thing I know, it's 2 days, and then, twice a week. And then it just kind of compounded to, at some point, I evolved into part-time, got a server's permit, and next thing I know, I'm there 3-4 nights a week, and I was like, wow.
It's it's a job now.
Yeah, it's this is real. And so about, 3.5 years in, we kind of dabbled with the idea of coming on full time there, and that was kind of like right before quarantine hit, and so we're like, let's pump the brakes. Not the best idea to make a career change probably right then. I think a lot of people probably had a thought like that. But as things kind of smoothed out, we brought it back up, and it's like, let's do it. I ended up in Chattanooga by being like, let's go for it. And so I was like, we'll do that, and been there for now just over a year full time as an instructor, and it's a lot of fun.
Nice. And so are you originally from Chattanooga?
No, I'm originally from Wisconsin.
Oh, yes. Okay. When you say it, I can hear it now. Yeah.
I get those long vowels. The words don't have spaces between them. Yeah. I say weird things like pop.
Yeah.
Roof.
Yeah. The first time I ever heard someone refer to, what I would refer to a soda as pop, I was like, is someone's grandfather here or something? Like, I was like, what are you referring to? What? I've never heard this before in my life. And it's like, yeah, that's a pop. I'm like, it's not making sense to me. I don't know what you're talking about. It just wasn't computing to me, which I'm sure, like, to me, I've lived down here, not in Chattanooga specifically, but in the Southeast my whole life. And so like a Southern accent just like flies right over my head. And I'm sure that if I ever go anywhere outside of here, they're like, oh, you're from the South, aren't you? How can you tell? Can you, is it that obvious? So no, I know what it's like to be somewhere where it's like you have the funny accent,
And now I've been here long enough that I'm not fully Midwest accent, but I don't have a Southern accent
it's
yet.
Like a weird fusion between
and so like when I'm down here, people are like, Wisconsin, pop, and then I go up north and they're like y'all, and like these things.
You're having an accent identity crisis.
And I'm like, what words do I say? I still can't say buggy like that. It's a shopping cart.
Yeah.
This now just became a controversial podcast, I think, just off of this word.
Yeah, that's what it is. That's funny. One of my relatives is from one of the Dakotas. I forget which one it is. I should know this because they've been my relatives since as long as I've been alive. But like every time they're in town, I'm like, I can hear it. I can hear it in your voice. It's similar to it. So it's funny. But yeah, I wanted to ask you just first and foremost. So obviously you're working, full time right now as a head chef. But was this something that because the way you used to describe it to me, it was almost like it kind of just happened by accident, at least here. Was this something that you had classical training in prior to this, or was it something you just kind of picked up along the way and just got better and better at, and the shoe just fit whenever it was time?
Yeah, no, it's pure on the job training. For me, I've always enjoyed working with food. It's kind of just been a fun thing. I feel like you can learn a lot about someone, and you can show you care a lot about people just by sharing a meal. Yeah. And so I feel like a shared meal is a great thing. And the classroom is like a shared meal every night with a bunch of strangers. Yeah. And so that's kind of a exciting thing there.
Yeah.
But yeah, no classical training, between Chef Jeff and Chef Heather, learning, pastry and everything else just from them there. And then, burning and over seasoning enough dishes to get it down.
That's your training.
Yeah. You mess up enough times and then you're like, okay, I figured it out.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've heard, I have been a lover of food my whole life. I've dubbed myself the least picky person I know because there's two things that I can think of that I do not like. I've never liked vinegar-based things, specifically like pickles. I don't really like pickles. And, I'm not a fan of salt and vinegar chip. I guess that's kind of the same thing. That's really where I draw the line.
It's everything the vinegar flavor.
Yeah, it's just like vinegar stuff. I'm not really a fan of that. But everything else is cool with me. But I didn't cook a lot growing up, and so whenever I graduated from college back in December of 21, and so in fall of 18, when I officially was living on my own, that was when I had a meal plan and stuff, but that was when I first started kind of learning to cook things other than toast and eggs, other than the basics. And so as I've gotten older, I've gotten a lot more into it, and I've been cooking a lot more, and I never realized that there was, I don't want to say controversy, but there's been a big discussion about is it, culinary school or no culinary school. If you're wanting to make a career in food, whether it's I guess it's one thing to be the manager of a restaurant or something, but if you're specifically wanting to cook food in some fashion for a living, I didn't realize there was a a debate about should you go to culinary school or should you kind of work your way up and learn through experience. And it sounds like that's what you did.
Yep.
But what's your take on that?
Man, that's really good there. Through my experience, I really like, I'm a visual person and a do type person for when it comes to learning. But I do think from the small amount of knowledge that I know about culinary school is it's not just the culinary techniques, but also I know they delve into restaurant management and how to actually get your inventory stuff set. There's, besides the cooking part, I feel like there's a whole nother aspect of culinary school.
That's true, yeah.
That I feel like probably doesn't get addressed as much. That stuff, again, I think, pretty much most jobs you can probably learn on the job outside of, there's I don't want my brain surgeon to do on the job training, but certain things, you can get, it helps having that experience through. And so, what I've seen, and I think is really cool, is we've had a couple younger people that are starting a culinary school program, and then while they're in it, they're volunteering at the classroom, or maybe they're working as a dishwasher downtown at a restaurant. And so I think if you can find the magic middle of both, that's probably the real key. But I do think you could go either route and end up in a great spot.
Yeah, because the thing that I've heard, I've done neither. I've never worked at a restaurant of any kind, and I've never gone to culinary school. But the pros of each one is it seems like culinary school is kind of obvious. You're going to learn from an expert in some fashion, and you're going to learn, kind of like in regular school, you're going to learn the core of what you need to know, like the very basics, and build from there. But it seems like to me, a route that you went, where you more learn from experience, you're going to have your mess ups, and those are going to be deliberate, and you're going to have, well, not deliberate necessarily, but you're going to have, mistakes and kind of hiccups along the way. But you also will, I would imagine, have a little bit more room for creativity. At least in my mind, that would make sense, because so whenever I first started trying to learn how to cook and put things to, not just heat up meat on a stove, but actually put a dish together, I was very okay, I've got to go exactly by the recipe. If they say 1 cup of this or 10 grams of this, I'm going to be exact to that, which that's important at times, but also there's room for changing things up. There's room for interpretation and room for I guess experimentation would be an adequate word for that. And so to me, that seems like there may be more room for that aspect of cooking if you were to learn just on your own through experience in a restaurant or something like what you did. Does that seem like, no, you're fine. Go for it. No.
I was waiting for a pause. No. Okay, we can edit that out.
No, you're fine. No, for anybody that's listening, Chef Ted is a human and is drinking water, so don't be too surprised. No, it was funny.
Like a squeaky water bottle.
No, I did one interview and they're like, oh, I think my chair is squeaking. I was like, it's okay. It's go for it.
I heard mine squeak twice. And I was like, oh no, I just ruined his intro.
No, don't worry about it. It's fine. It's fine. No, don't worry about it. But yeah, does that seem to be the case for do you think that? And I could be totally wrong. Like I said, I've never worked in a restaurant, nor have I gone to culinary school. But what's in your experience? Do you think there's more room for kind of learning your own style and learning about the creativity in the kitchen just through experience rather than as opposed to culinary school?
Yeah, I think since I haven't worked in a classic kitchen either, I feel like I have an odd career route too.
You're not in a high paced restaurant necessarily.
Yeah. I'm almost it's I skipped culinary school and went to being a culinary teacher. And had to bypass that part and kind of pick it up as I went. But I think, again, culinary school, getting those core basics, I'm pretty sure, if someone was like, hey, I need you to make a perfect brunoise right now out of this onion, I would probably pause for a quick second and be like, all right, brunoise. Oh yeah, 1/8 of an inch, little things like that. And then I think it's, I'd like to think as time goes on, they probably, give you some form of okay, here's a base. One big thing we talk about in the classroom is we use we still use a lot of French terms in a kitchen. And so,
or brunoise,
brunoise. Yeah.
Something that's French.
Yep. Yeah. And so an example I used actually last night in class, because we did sushi, we had to make a sweet soy sauce to go over all the rolls and stuff. And so And, we use the term nappe to describe a thickness of a sauce. And so once you know what that part is, which would be a really good part, I'd learn that as I went. But in culinary school, I'm sure they have a whole like section under sauces and things where it's like, your chef can be like, make this sauce. And then if you verify consistency, they'll just be like nappe. And that's the only thing they'll tell you.
Yeah.
Or, you'll get an onion and it'll be like julienne. And like, that's the only instruction because everything means something very specific.
Yeah.
As for there we go. Yeah. Water went down the wrong hatch. Restaurant wise, I've had a few friends that kind of work on the backside there. I know, a lot of people will like spend that time outside of work, or like maybe, they come in and they have like a little extra stuff on the side, and they'll like, that's where they'll kind of play with things and kind of delve out there. Yeah. At the classroom, we have the recipe sheet that we give everyone, which, when we start out the class, it's like, measure this exactly.
It very much. I can tell you, if you haven't gone to, which I would say this, if you are in the Chattanooga area, I would definitely. I'm not just saying this because you're right in front of me, but it's really fun. Like if you're wanting to learn just have a fun time or just have a good meal, it is a fun. Like I would highly recommend. What's the name of it? Is it Sweet and Savory?
Sweet and Savory class.
Okay, I always get the two mixed up. Like is it savory and sweet or sweet and savory? But it's a really fun time, and I still have my. I have a picture of the first one that I went to like years ago, and I still have the one from the French cooking class.
Physical copy.
I still have it in my apartment, so I'll break it out at some point and make everything again.
And it's like, okay, follow this recipe that we've given you, and then measure all the good stuff out, have it at the ready, and then you'll see like a line at the bottom that says like salt and pepper to taste. And that's like the scariest thing people will see. Yeah. They'll be like, what does to taste mean? Or it's like, I've never seen a to taste spoon, like, how much is that? I've heard that before. Like, and so, when those scenarios happen, it's like, all right, cool. Let's talk about what that means. And then we like to break things down a whole bunch. And so that's where I got to learn what to taste means is I would do my best to make it, follow kind of like the core principles of, seasoning the taste, which, I'm purposely going to leave this out in case someone wants to learn how to season the taste and then come to the classroom, we can talk about it.
Yeah.
But
shameless plug.
Yeah. Totally shameless plug.
Yeah.
And then, but, it would start off and be like, hey, Chef Jeff, taste this. I think I got this right. Yeah. And he'd just be like, needs blah, or you're short on this, or check it again. And then after a while, it was like, yep, that's good. And then, I'd confirm a few more things. And they'd be like, it's too salty. And so, getting used to like your personal palate changing over time is a big thing. Yeah. And I think at home, like that's a thing that, even adults, it's like, hey, your palate's going to evolve a little bit as you work through some of these things. But I do get to, I think I get a lot of creative freedom at the classroom. And so let's say, believe it or not every recipe turns out perfect.
Really?
I have a container of granola bars in the back of the room. I've never had to break it out, but it's there just in case.
So like, wait, you mean to tell me like if you're let's say we're making like
if we burned everything,
beef Wellingtons, and like everything gets burnt, and you say, well, we do have these instead. If in my mind, and then it's the same thing with Chef Jeff. He kind of like told me this philosophy. He's like, it doesn't matter if we burn every single dish in the house, as long as people had a good time and they're happy. Yeah. We'll have granola bars and wine or something, and we'll let that roll out or something. And, hopefully if every beef Wellington burns, that's probably on us. We're watching the stoves to help out. That would be a scene.
But it's like if something happens, it's like, how can we adapt to it? And so the, scenarios like that just like really, I think have helped me grow exponentially faster than what I might have in like a culinary school background. Because, if someone comes up to you and says, oh, I messed all of these up, what do we do now? Yeah. It's like, oh, these were all of the, the cucumbers that we're going to turn into pickles. We're going to use that as an example. Yeah. And be like, we're not going to throw out all the pickles or cucumbers. We're going to figure this out. And so,
no, I remember. So whenever,
hopefully that answered that question.
No.
I felt like I went roundabout for a bit.
No, I love roundabout. No, I told someone, they were asking me one time. They're like, "Is it hard doing podcasts?" I was like, "Well, it's easy if someone gives me like a just an answer to anything." But if I'm like, "Hey, what is this good or bad?" And they're just like, "No" or "Yes." I'm like, well, Okay, I don't know what to work. I don't really have anything to go off from that, so no, you're fine. But I remember when we went to the class. So I don't know how we found our way over to the station we were at, but we were making, I think, the base of the ratatouille, and
doing all the veggie prep.
Yes. I was like that. I'm pretty sure that's what we were doing, and I somehow ended up with the red onions. And I remember I don't know. You probably don't remember this because you've done a lot of classes since this, but I remember this. I had like raised my hand or something. You walked over to me, and I was like, "Hey," I was like, "What I cut onions before. I was like, "What exactly do you want me to do with this?" And I think you said something like, "Oh, this needs to be julienne," and I was like, "Okay." What does that mean? I was like, I was like, what do you mean by that? And in the back of my mind, I was like, oh, there's a little bit of pressure on me now. Like he's using the real words, and like I'm like in the kitchen now, you know.
Which normally I don't use that as an answer, and so like my mind was probably elsewhere when you asked me that, and it was like an autopilot reflex. It'd be like, like if an assistant asked me a question like that, I'm like, oh yeah, we just julienne it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and then I like kind of start walking away.
Yeah.
And then sometimes I do things like that, and I'll be like, oh yeah, just mince it up, and I'll start walking away. And then someone, it doesn't click in my mind that like sometimes it's like, oh wait, no, we got to go we're going to step one. Let's talk about how you get to a mince. Little things. And the same thing with the julienne. It's like, oh no, yeah, that's a good question. Actually, I don't think we julienne red onions in the ratatouille.
I don't know. Well, whatever. It was some word that the thing that got me was whatever you said, I'd heard it before. Like, it wasn't like I'd never heard it.
Okay.
And so I was like, I sat there and I was like, I've heard this before. And I was like, I've heard this before. I should know what it is.
I feel like I need to pull up my phone and look up all my recipes real quick.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah. But no, it was funny. It was like, I was sitting there, I was like, I should know what this is. And I don't want to be like, I don't want to be that person that's like, how do you cut an onion? Like, I want to have like a little bit of like a structure to it. But I was just like, at some point I was like, I'm just going to have to make sure like we're on the same page here, And then, at the end, I remember you're like, yeah, just cut it like this and it'll be good. I was like, oh, okay. Well, it's not too much pressure on this then.
I actually love it when someone's like, I have no clue what to do.
Yeah.
Because in my brain, that's like, all right, there is 0 bad habits we have to train out. And it's like, all right, if you just do this for the rest of your life, it's going to be so much easier.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's like one of the ways we teach too. It's not just like core cooking competencies and things like that. It's like, hey, if you just change how you hold your hands when you're, grating cheese and how you hold the thing, your wrist is going to hurt less by the time you grate the end of that block. Little things like that. Or, if you just cut with this part of the knife instead of this part of the knife, you only got to raise the knife like a 1/4 inch versus 2 inches.
So I've made it a deliberate effort. I mean, I grew up in the South, so like I'm used to. I haven't cooked a ton of like traditional Southern. I didn't cook a lot of them growing up, but like that's what I'm used to eating whenever I was growing up. But now that I'm like cooking on my own more, I've made a deliberate effort to try and like learn dishes from other countries and stuff like that, and like it broadened my horizons some. And there've been some that I found that I'm good, like I'm better at than others. But for you specifically, was there ever a specific like dish or style of food that was like particularly, it was like really hard for you to figure out, or like it was just a difficult one for you to kind of get the hang of?
100%.
Yeah.
The working with like doughs in general. The very first dough I ever made was a ramen noodle dough.
Oh, geez.
And I know, right? That's a start no start. That's when I like went to like
that sounds
actually
like
learn.
A lot of finesse to that. That's what it sounds like in my head.
Kind of, and so it's like, that was when I was like still like even like taking the classes and working like as a volunteer. And so, but my dough was so bad. The instructor at the time, Chef Rika, she used my dough as an example of what not to do when you're making a dough. It was this sticky, wet nightmare.
Was this at the time? Were you like at the? Was this somewhere else?
This was at the classroom.
Oh, this was at the classroom.
Yeah, I was taking the ramen class while I was volunteering on the side, and that moment right there like solidified. Like, I'm gonna figure out doughs. Yeah. Like, I'm gonna get doughs down. Yeah. Because like it was so bad. And so now like when I teach doughs in classes, I'm like, oh, y'all's doughs look way better than my first time. Yeah. Like there's a little jealousy in there too. I'm like, man, why does this work out for you guys so well?
Yeah.
But I still I love to joke around with Rika when I see her there about that, and we have a lot, because then she's like, along with that there was other compliments, but I was like poke at that one. But I love working with doughs now. It's a lot of fun on that side. And then, another thing that was kind of let's see. There was one other item that was like kind of like rough to get down at first. I'm trying to think. I'm totally brain farting on it. Well, it'll pop back in like 5 minutes.
Well, no, the reason I'm glad you said dough is because I've recently dabbled in baking a little bit. I haven't done like any desserts or anything, but I've done a couple breads, and so far they've all turned out the way I wanted them to turn out.
Nice.
And so I've been very happy with that, but I'm still like cautiously like I don't want, because I know baking is like, you're like one little bit off and it can like, it can be a train wreck. And so I've been very like, I want to make sure I'm doing it all and make sure I follow the steps and stuff because I want it to turn out good. But so far I've made a couple different loaves of bread, and I've made one. Is it focaccia? Is that how you say it?
Focaccia.
Oh, it's so good. I made it one time and I loved it. I want to make it again, like either make it just whole or make it like a whole pizza. Like I want to do it like a big sheet pan pizza. So I'll try that out.
Cool crust.
But it's so good. I loved it so much.
I love making focaccia. Actually, I've like over the last. Oh, geez, it's probably been almost at least a year now that I've been making all the focaccia for the classroom. Mm-hmm. And so, when the week comes around, it's like, I need 2 pans of focaccia. Yeah. And so, maybe Monday morning, that's what I'm doing after I get groceries or something. And, it started out with, we use Chef Heather. Mm-hmm. She's our pastry chef, Chef Jeff's wife, co-owner. We used her notebook. And the best part about her notes is you can tell they were written by her. And because
is that a good thing or a bad thing?
It's a good thing because if 1 year ago you would ask me that, I'd have been like, this is hard. But it's essentially a list of ingredients and then a few steps, and then it might say like do the X method or mix until it looks like this, and then that's it. Yeah, and so it's like it's short, it's sweet, it's to the point. And when I first saw it, I was like, oh, is this right? Is this right? And I'm pretty sure I sent like 10 text messages and pictures to be like, is this how the dough should look? Like, am I doing this right? Yeah. But now, I love making focaccia in my free time. Yeah. You take the extra time to, roast some garlic, get like the fancy little cherry tomatoes that are multicolored, and you just kind of like drop them in there. Yeah.
And slather it with olive oil.
Spend a little bit extra money on really good olive oil, and, when you eat it, not when you cook it. Yeah. Don't put your nice olive oil when you cook things. If that's my one advice for some people.
One piece of advice, yeah.
Don't use the good olive oil to cook.
Yeah. Something I do want to ask you about. So, like I said, I've loved food my whole life. I mean, there have been very few dishes that I've not been a fan of. And as I've gotten older, like I said, I've been cooking more. But I guess like I took a bit of a like I don't know what a traditional approach to like getting into cooking would be, but I feel like I took a bit of an unorthodox approach because I got really into it by like I'll go really in deep on something, like I'll find something and be like, oh, I'm gonna learn a lot about this, and for some reason like food YouTube really piqued my interest at one point. Like I would just watch just constantly over and over, and it'd be things that I would never make. It'd just be like these like incredibly complex things, but like, oh, this is interesting. Like it'd
be like some like crazy Babish video or something.
Yeah, and he'd be like, yeah, you just on step 34, you're gonna get this thing and do that. And I'm like, I'm never gonna do this, but this is really cool.
No, I definitely went through one of those like YouTube video binges early on when I was starting work. Like every now and then I'll just like throw it on in the background just to listen because it's kind of fun to listen to. Like I'm not even like watching what's happening.
It's kind of like elevator music. Like, it's just going on. It's very
passive cooking sounds are like relaxing to me. That sounds like a way to describe it. And so, but no, I know exactly what you're talking about. Like, and you watch some of those and you're like, I wonder if I could do that. Yeah. If I took some time.
Yeah. Well, no, that was the thing with me. Like I was watching, you specifically mentioned Babish's videos, and like there's one in particular that I watch it every now and then just because it's absurd. But he makes a hat that's made out of tortilla chips. It's from one of the Minions movies. I've not seen it, but it's a tortilla chip hat that you then fill like some kind of dipping sauce in it.
I feel like
and he
I
makes
saw
it.
This.
And I was watching it, I was like, I don't think anybody's ever going to do that. Like, no one person's like, "Hey, honey, tonight we're having tortilla chip hat." Like, no person is going to do this. But then but it was just so like, I have to see him do. Like, I have to see if
You have to watch the process.
Yeah, I was like, this is just kind of insane, But then came a point where I was like, there'd be a few things I was like, that's not like that complicated, or like that doesn't look too different. Like, I think I could probably do that,
I think that's a really good way to like, almost like get into cooking.
Yeah.
Is when you find a dish that either one just catches your eye, you're like, wow, that's super cool. Like, I'm going to use flambe as an example, because who doesn't like lighting their food on fire on purpose?
Yeah.
And like when you see flambés, you're like, oh, I bet that would be so cool to do.
Yeah.
And then like things like that, the tortilla chip hat, you're like, I just kind of want to make it to like say that I did.
Yeah.
Like get a picture of it. You throw it up on social just to be like, made a tortilla chip hat.
Yeah.
And rolling off that, and I feel like I remember watching the one where it's the Meat Tornado one.
That's
from Parks and
Rec series.
And
yes.
And so I remember that, and I was like, but then like the number of meats that he actually went to get in that video, I was like, wow.
He also in the Parks and Rec video. So if you have, I would highly recommend, if you're listening to this and haven't watched it, just look up Meat Tornado like cooking tutorial, and you'll know the video we're talking about. But he references the actual scene in Parks and Rec where I'm assuming it's Ron Swanson. And he's like, yeah, this meat tornado it can, there's like a 1 in 5 chance it'll kill a man or
kill
something
a guy
like that.
or something last month.
And so whenever he like starts to actually make it, he calls up a doctor and he's like, in theory, could this kill an individual? And he was like, under the right circumstances, if the weather is right, technically, yes. And he's like, that's all I needed to hear. And then he just goes with it. And it's so absurd, but like you can't look away from it, and it's kind of hilarious,
Yeah, no. And then, a lot of those, like when it comes to like cooking YouTube, I remember watching a lot of Babish's videos like early on, and then he like started coming up with like the little side stuff, and like the basics with Babish pops in my head.
Yeah.
And it's like a shameless plug for him now as I'm thinking about this.
Yeah.
But
if he ever listens to this, you're welcome.
Yeah. If you ever listen to this podcast, you're welcome. But he covers like, even if like some of the things we teach might be slightly different, I mean, I know we teach things, slightly different probably than what other people learn here and there.
Yeah.
Sorry, I heard that.
Yeah, that was, I apologize for that. I don't know what just unholy noise just came out of my throat, but I don't know if I should leave that in or not, but I might just, because that was like Alien 4 just happened. I don't know what just happened to me, but anyways.
But when you like see basics videos like that, I really like that, because then like I think watching intro videos, or like watching a knife skills video, or watching, how to break apart a chicken, those things I feel like are what really start locking people into wanting to like cook more at home, because there's like the fear of what to do. You can go buy the ingredients. Yeah. But then once the ingredients is sitting on your countertop, it's how do you not put it in the refrigerator and ignore it for 2 weeks? Yeah. It's like, no, you need to use those peppers you bought.
Yeah. No, it was funny. I had a moment like that where I wanted to cook something, and I don't remember what it was that drew me to wanting to cook this. And I don't remember specifically who. You can find multiple videos of this particular dish. But it was I think it's called shakshuka. Have you heard of that before?
Yes. That's like a simmered tomato dish with eggs and stuff. I've made it once.
Yes. So for some reason I was really like, I want to make that. Like I've never even seen it or heard of it before. And if you're listening and you haven't heard of this, it's really good. Like it looks kind of funny, but it's like this.
It's delicious.
It looks a little funny, but it's really good. Like it's like this tomato-based vegetable dish with these cracked eggs on top of it, and you cook it in the oven. Or at least I did. And it was the first time I tried to make it, I learned real quick that, you're going to make mistakes at some point, because I was like trying to be uber, like everything is ready. Like, I just got to follow the steps now. I've got everything separated in the, all the spices and everything.
That's the best thing too. Like get that prep done.
Yeah. Well, I had all the prep done, but then, I'd gotten to the point where I had cooked everything. And I'd like sauteed the vegetables and done everything that needed to be done. And the only thing left to do was I'd put it in the oven and set it for however long and then pull it out, and it was done. I was like, okay, just put it in there and do it. And I put it in there, and let's say it was like 20 minutes or something. I don't know. Put it in there, And like 10 minutes into it, I look on the counter and I was like, that's a bowl of all the spices I was supposed to put inside of that. And I was like, oh my gosh, like what have I done?
So you just had like a pot of tomatoes, onions.
Well, no, it wasn't that. It was like the dry spices.
Okay.
It was like a bowl, and I had mixed them all together. And I was like, oh, I can't I can't unseparate them. You know, it's like they're all mixed together now. I mean, like, I guess I could go and try. I was like, what am I going to do? And so in a moment of like panic, I just pulled it out and like tossed all the spices on top of it, just put it back in. I was like, let's hope that works.
like you like sprinkled it over kind of thing?
I tried
or
to, yeah.
You know, it's like you're putting like some like Parmesan on top of your pizza slice kind of thing going on?
Yeah, I tried to, but in the end, it was still, I thought it was good. I mean, it didn't taste bad, but you could tell that something was off because when you pulled it out, there was just like this weird mass of spices like on top of it. And my girlfriend was like, what happened here? And I was like, I'll tell you later. So I ended up redeeming myself later and made it correctly and properly. So
like scale 1 to 10, how'd you say you did?
The first time? I mean, technically speaking, I did forget to put these spices in correctly. So I don't want to say it wasn't a failure. It still tastes good, but it was definitely not correct. But the second time, I mean, I thought it was pretty good. I would feel comfortable, for me personally, giving it like a 7 or an 8. Like I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah,
it was something that I would feel like I would order it at a restaurant. It's kind of my guess, you know, my range. Like, would I if I was given this at a restaurant, would I eat it? And if my answer is yes, I'm like, okay, hey, I'll roll with it. You know, it's probably not perfect, but it's good enough for me. You know, but yeah,
I was hoping to find a picture of the one I did, but I can't find it to save my life right now.
No, it's fine.
I found like a bunch of weird food that I made. Like I made a ramen pizza. I found that picture.
A ramen pizza? How does that happen?
So every now and then to like keep me on my toes, so to speak.
You'll like do something crazy.
But I'll tell my friends like, what should I do? Mm-hmm. And then I just let them go to town. And so they like picked ramen and pizza as like my topics. And so one day I made a pizza ramen. It was absolutely like.
So was it pizza flavored like pizza? Was it a ramen dish that tastes like pizza, or was it
pretty
pizza
much
that tastes like ramen?
The goal was to make the broth have like a saucy taste, but then it was pizza toppings on top. Except I made the mistake of doing like all monochromatic colors, and so it was like, you know, visually you're like, you know, I don't know how I.
So like everything was like red or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I definitely have a picture of that I can show you on here. And then on the other side, the ramen pizza, which was delicious.
So this is an actual pizza, like an actual pizza that has like ramen toppings on it. Yeah. Oh, that looks really good.
Oh, it's delicious.
Oh man. Okay, if there's not a recipe for this, I would not be upset if you had made a recipe for this and you know it existed.
I just made homemade pizza dough, made my favorite ramen toppings, you know, and just threw like a light layer of noodles, and then like the sauce I cooked the chicken in became the pizza sauce. Yeah, and so it was like this like sweet soy sauce as the base. And
but see, this looks like something that you would see at a restaurant. Like I feel like that would not be. I mean, it's not traditional. You know, like an Italian is going to roll over in their grave seeing that. But
they'd be like, "What did you just do to like my beautiful?"
But like I feel like that's something that you could justify at a restaurant. You know, to some degree. I mean, maybe like some weird like.
Here we go. This was the other side of that equation. It's not as pretty.
Yeah, it is very monochromatic, but I'm sure it's good. You know, I mean, it looks good to me. I would try it at the very least.
I wouldn't make it again, but I'm glad I tried it once.
So what would you give the rating for that? Like monochromatic aside,
the ramen one itself, I'm gonna give it like a 5.5 on a good day.
Okay. Out of 10?
Out of 10.
Okay.
That pizza though, I'm giving like a solid like 8.5.
I think that should be like one of your next classes. Like you should be like mystery night. Like we're not gonna tell you what we're gonna make.
We're just gonna draw from a hat.
We're gonna do fusions. Like we're gonna pick two different things and then mix them together and see if we can figure it out on the spot. You know,
that'd be like a fun thing to like create an event on.
Yeah.
So it'd be really hard to shop groceries though.
Just send somebody there and say, just pick out whatever you're feeling at the moment. Just,
essentially, like make us a mystery box, but we'll figure it out from there. You know, like But yeah, another thing I love to do, and this might be a good thing for like anyone at home, is I like to just grab a cookbook and flip open to a random page, and wherever it lands is what I'm having for like either dinner that night or the next night.
Yeah.
You don't have to pick what you're cooking, which is great.
Yeah.
You know, go through that hassle. But two, you know, if it's like, you know, maybe you're having banh mi burgers one night or something, little fun stuff like that. And then it's like, would you have made that if you didn't like try and like just dip out of the comfort zone just a hair? And so I think that's a fun way to like start cooking more at home.
Yeah, no, I would also, and this is coming from someone who is not a professional chef by any means, and has no corporate training to any degree, but the thing that's helped me is like not being afraid of like something you've never even tried before. Like one of my favorite things that I make it very consistently now. It's an Indian dish. I think it's called dal. I want to say it's called that. I think it's like DAHL. It's like rice and a lentil based dish, and it's very simple to make, but it's so good. But like on the surface, if you're someone like me who's from Southeast Tennessee and has eaten biscuits and gravy your whole life, like thinking of like, oh yeah, we're gonna make Indian food tonight. It's like, oh, what's that gonna be? So like not being afraid to try out like new things. I know that's very easy to say, but like not being afraid to just say, hey, we're just going to give this, this totally new country a try and see what it's like. I think that's, it's worth trying new places like that.
And then when you do things like that, you can order like the closest thing, like visually, like controversial phrase, biscuits and gravy. When you think about it, like if you take pita and then some like really good like curry based dip, let's use like chana masala or something like that. And if you did the pita in that, that's essentially, a version of like biscuits and gravy. It's a bread and a dip,
Yeah.
And so, starting out nice and easy there would be a solid route. And then, this is a good rule that like you could try if it's like a food you're like, I don't know if I'm ever going to eat that, like ever.
Yeah.
Is I always tell them, the kids in my classes, I have a 3-bite rule. And so the first bite you take, you're going to be like, I'm not going to like this no matter what.
Yeah.
The second bite you're going to take, you're like, okay, I promise I'd take 3 bites. I'm going to try it.
Yeah.
And, it's going to be, But then the third bite is what I call the honest bite. And it's like, that's probably how you actually feel about the flavor.
Yeah.
And it's like, after 3 bites, it's cool if you don't like it.
Yeah.
But try it again down the line. See if your flavors change.
Yeah. No, I'm right there with you. You said the word, specifically, you said the word controversial. I'm glad you did, because I wanted to ask you, do you personally have any like food hot takes? Like any like, I will not eat this, or like, this is like the worst thing on planet Earth and I don't care what anybody says, or like, oh, this food combination, it deserves to be recognized, anything like that. And I'll give you, let me think of one. Like for example, I know one of my friends back, and this is a very low bar, but one of my friends from back home, he probably still does, but he loved getting like chips, just like any kind of potato chip, and he would dip them in A1 sauce. And I thought that was the strangest thing. And he was like, he swore about it. He was like, no, it's good. I'm telling you, like, you got to try it. And I tried it and I was like, he's got a point. Like, it's not that bad, but like on the surface, it's kind of weird. So, and it doesn't have to be like that low of a bar, but like, do you personally have any hot takes when it comes to food?
I'd say when it comes to like weird combos, so backstory, my dad, used to have like, no longer with us, but he had a swallowing difficulty. And so he would eat peanut butter and maple syrup together.
That doesn't sound bad.
And when you look at it, though, it's like...
I'm sure it looks a little funny.
It looks a little weird.
Yeah.
I usually don't mix up.
Yeah.
But it's super good. Peanut butter with just a little maple syrup dribbled over top.
Yeah.
So good. Looks weird, but delicious.
Yeah.
But when it comes to like food, I'm not a huge fan of like things that are not standard items that get pickled.
Oh, like, okay.
So pickled like eggs, pickled pig's feet or something.
Have you seen videos of people eating pickled pig's feet?
Yeah, and
those are like the most repulsive but hilarious videos I've ever seen.
Yeah, and it's like okay, if I had to, I would eat it, but I'm definitely not going to go out of my way to purchase that item. I'm
going to draw the line at pickled pig's feet. I'm not going to do. I've seen videos of that. I'm going to draw the line there. I'm not a picky person.
Yeah, you already don't like pickles, so
Yeah.
I don't think changing it to pork from cucumber is going to help you out there.
Yeah,
but I feel like weird like. You can pickle anything.
Yeah, pretty much.
It doesn't mean you have to.
Yeah.
That's what I think. And so that's probably my hot take.
That should go on a shirt. You can pickle anything, but you do not have to.
Exactly. Maybe that should be in that section too of the store. And so, and it's not, I don't know if it's technically a form of pickling, but like, in the Midwest, and I believe this is a Swedish dish. It's lutefisk? No, German.
You can tell me whatever. I have no idea.
It's like essentially this like fish lye thing, and it smells absolutely horrible, but it is like a cultural dish.
Yeah.
And I tried it one time, and I'm like, one's enough.
Yeah.
I didn't even need the 3-bite rule there. I was like,
I think I'll just call it quits there.
But yeah, I'm gonna say like weird things that get pickled is my like food hot take.
So do you like pickled things though? Like do you like pickles and like I don't know, like a big thing down here is like pickled okra. Like have you ever had that before?
I haven't had pickled okra yet, but I mean I'll fight someone for the extra pickle spear, that comes on the tray and like things like that. I love we do this like hot and sweet spicy pickle for like our burger class and things. And man, I'll eat those all day because we also like we pickle some red onions, some bell pepper, and like those are other like veggies that when they get pickled, they change their flavor pretty good, and it's delicious.
Yeah,
maybe that's your secret. Maybe I'd like just try like other veggies that have been pickled.
Well, so me personally, I'm a little weird when it comes to pickled things because I actually love pickled red onions. I make them all the time. I love pickled red onions, but I can't. I have a I don't know how to explain like a dill pickle. It just I just do not. I've never liked it but it's weird.
Now, do you like dill and other stuff? Like
I don't cook with it a lot. I remember I don't know.
Do you like tzatziki sauce?
I do.
Okay,
yes.
so
I don't make a lot. You're
probably cool with dill then.
Yes. I mean, I think me and dill get along. But like I've never liked pickles, and however, I will say, let the record stand. That recently my fiance's mom made some bread and butter pickles, and she's going to hear this, so she'll want me to say this. And I did try them, and I did enjoy them. Like I can say that confidently. At the time, I was a little bit in denial. I was like, I've not liked pickles my whole life. Like I can't start liking them now. Like I've been
stood on that.
Yeah, like this has been the hill that I've died on for my whole life, and like now you're giving me one that's like I kind of like it. So like. I'm not fully pickle, I'm not like 100% pro pickle gang, at this point, but like that particular one was pretty good. So I'm willing to admit that now, but
I mean, I bet she's like super happy to hear
she's going to hear this. I can tell you, she's like, I knew it. I knew he was going to like that.
Shout out to your fiance's mom.
Yeah. But yeah, like I've never been aside from that, I've never been like a big dill pickle fan or anything like that, but like, you give me a jar, like I kid you not, I have a giant jar of pickled red onions in my fridge in my apartment right now. Like I put them on everything. I love them. They're so good. I love them. You can put them on anything, and they're so good. And they're like bright pink. Like it's.
Oh yeah, they have a nice color.
Yeah. Which is
providing you do red onions.
Yeah. I'm talking about red onions, which. I think the name red onion is kind of hilarious because if you pickle them, they're bright pink, and on their own,
you caramelize them, they turn purple.
Yeah, on their own, they kind of look purple. Like they look more purple than red, at least to me.
It's like someone looked at like the dried skin on the outside. And they're like, "Yep, red onion. There we go, good enough." And then they opened it up. They're like, "Oh no, it was purple."
Oh, wait a minute, no, I meant to say purple. I was like, "Nope, you said it now. It's in the history books now."
It's like, have you seen, like how there's different colored bell peppers?
Yes,
out there, and there's one, breed that sometimes gets sold in stores. It's purple on the outside, but green on the inside.
I have not seen that. And there's a purple one?
Yeah. And so it's like a purple color, but when you cut it open, it looks like a green bell pepper. So it's like, it's green, on the flesh on the inside, and then the skin is purple.
That's like some Whole Foods stuff. I haven't seen that one before.
Usually I like run to it sometimes at farmers market. I don't know if I've seen it here in Chattanooga, but like at grocery stores, like back home, would occasionally have it in like time of the year. But yeah, it was like, first time I bought that, I was like, oh, this would be such a cool like combo to throw. And then I cut it open, it was green. I was like, that's not what I wanted.
It's like, what is happening now? You're having
I was fully ready to like add this purple color to this other medley of.
I was about to make purple pepper soup, and now I don't know what to do with this.
Now I got green bell peppers.
Do you have if you were like you were gonna you have one final meal to eat? Like, do you have like that ready to go? Like exactly what it is.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. So what's up for you?
I would 100% go for like an all-you-can-eat sushi buffet.
Oh, you're a big sushi guy?
But if I could like fully pick, it'd be like one of those like top tier, like, super classic, maybe even like call it like higher level Michelin star or something like that. Just an all-you-can-eat buffet of that because, watching that, I would just almost love to like watch the process happen more than eat it. But then I would definitely still want to eat it.
Yeah.
Because like watching them do their work, they're like, it's like, wow,
yeah,
that's like some serious stuff going on there.
Yeah.
And then there's like, there's certain I can't think of the name of the fish, but there's only a certain amount of people that are like licensed to actually cut up the fish and serve it because it's so poisonous. If it's done wrong, it could kill the person eating it.
It may be a different fish, but I've heard.
I don't think it's like a lionfish. Maybe I don't know why
lionfish. That is scary sounding.
I don't know why that comes to mind. I feel like that's not it, but it's this like one fish that you got to get that special certification, and only X amount of people in the world have it, and it's like that would have to be on that buffet.
Yeah,
but yeah, that'd be like my go-to. I love sushi.
Yeah, I'm a big sushi guy. The thing with me and sushi is like I love it, but I never get full off of it, and so I'm like I have like whenever if I ever sit down, I'm like I want all of them. Like I want to get all of them because they're just I'm like I want to try all of them, but I have such a I can't decide on any of them at all, and so I don't know. I get very indecisive when it comes to sushi.
So you're like you gotta go on half off roll day just to get a few.
Yes, yeah. I want to try them out.
I mean, I'm gonna shameless plug and be like, come to the classroom and I'll show you how to make sushi, and then you just put whatever you want in it at home.
That's fair. That's fair. Well, I will tell you this. So I will definitely be returning at some point because we did have a great time. But initially, when we were wanting to go, we were going to try to go to Valentine's Day, the Valentine's Day one. But it was like February the 10th, and we were like, oh, let's see if they have any availability. And it was like, no, we've been sold out since August of the last year.
When Valentine's hits up, whatever that 90-day, maybe a little more out is, it's like a mad dash because that's one of those. That's one of those specialty ones where like it's a brand new menu every year. Yeah. And it's like it's also a special version of the menu, so we do some extra things. Mm-hmm. So this last year I made a custom cocktail riffed off of a French 75 because it was kind of a French-based menu, and that cocktail's never going to see the light of day again. Mm-hmm. It was a special thing for those 5 or 6 classes in a row. Mm-hmm. And then, little extra goodies happen when you come in. There's a charcuterie board waiting for you. Yeah. There's a few other things. Yeah. And I feel like makes it a more special night. Yeah. New Year's is also usually a brand new night. But when those Valentine classes pop up, it's like a fight to the death. Yeah. Well, I remember we were sitting at a restaurant. We were like, what should we do for Valentine's Day? We're like, oh, that'd be fun. Let's go to this cooking class. We looked it up and it was nope, sold out. And we're like, oh. Okay, well, let's look a little bit farther down the road, I guess. So we obviously ended up going, but no, I had a great time, and I want to come on Valentine's Day because I know it's going to be a special one, but it's really fun. I really enjoyed it, and I thought it was fun, and it was a good time. I'm glad you had a good time, and also side note, congrats on your engagement. Well, thank you. So thank you, because like I said, I think. I don't think you were engaged when you came to the classroom. No, I was not. I knew I was going to be eventually. It was in the works at that. I think it was. Yeah. I'm trying to remember when that was. Yeah, I knew I was going to be eventually, but I was not at the time. So thank you. I appreciate that. That was interesting. My family knew about it, and her immediate family knew about it, and a couple of my coworkers knew about it, but no one knew about it aside from that. And so it was keeping all that under wraps for so long. It was an interesting process. It felt good to probably get it done with. Oh my gosh, I did. I was it felt good to just be I can tell everybody now, just get this off my chest. So nice. That was nice. Do you guys have a date and all that figured out already? Or we don't have a specific date as of right now. We think it's going to be maybe September, August of next year. Okay. That's what we're hoping for. We're going to go check out some venues soon and hopefully get a date, an actual, specific date. September, October sounds like you want an outside venue. Yes. Yeah, definitely. Hopefully we hope to do part of it outside. I get very hot very easily though. So I'm hoping that's why we're hoping to do it. Like you said, do the ceremony outside, then go inside to the AC for reception. Yeah, exactly. That's the classic combo. Yeah. I went to a wedding where it was the opposite. We did everything inside, then the reception was outside, and it was by the end of the night, you're like, jeez, is that building still in line? Yeah, jeez. But I got one more thing I want to ask you about. So, do you ever two short things. Mm-hmm. One, do you ever watch the cooking shows where it's specifically I think of the Gordon Ramsay one where it's the two teams competing against, or do you ever watch any shows like that and look at them and be these fools, what do they do? Or do you ever critique shows where it's cooking and you're I could do this so much better. I know they're doing this wrong. Do you ever have moments like that? Yeah, I definitely do that. Yeah. Subconsciously and even and I think it's because I don't have a full on school background or because when you watch the shows and usually they give you a bio of whoever's in it, mm-hmm. and it's this is, John Doe. He's been an executive chef for 30 years and, he's been, he's opened 14 restaurants and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it's like, he can't cook a steak to medium or little things or he doesn't know how many ounces are in a cup or, things like that happen. Yeah. And it's just like, wait a minute,
I can do that. Yeah.
You could almost go to most restaurants and probably find someone who could do that. And it's the steak thing is, you walk into any steakhouse and I'm sure whoever's back there working the grill could, whip up that no problem. Yeah. And so then the moments like that where I'm it's I feel like that's such a core thing. Yeah. Which I feel like it's probably when you see Gordon Ramsay get mad. Yeah. He's probably vocalizing what everyone's thinking at home where everyone's like, wow, how'd you mess that up? And then Gordon Ramsay's like, how'd you mess that up?
Yeah. with a few other choice
with a few other things thrown in there. Yeah. But I definitely watch cooking shows and I'm like, oh, yeah, no, that's wrong.
Yeah.
But I also watch cooking shows and be like, oh, that's such a cool technique. Yeah. I've never thought about doing that. Yeah. Or I've never thought about putting those flavors together.
Yeah.
I think my favorite cooking show lately, I binge watched Final Table on Netflix.
Heard that one. That's on Netflix?
Yep. And so essentially it was the premise of it is it's chefs are in teams of two, but they're chefs who are kind of really top in their field, so to speak. And then they're being judged by essentially a top chef from each country. Mm-hmm. And so watching, I think US had Grant Atkins, and I hope I didn't butcher that name because it's a unique spelling there, but he was for US and when he came in on those, I was like, holy cow. I didn't recognize most chefs, but then I saw a chef that I recognized that who's not a famous TV chef.
Yeah.
And I was like, holy cow. I'd be so nervous. And a lot of the people on that show were like, oh my gosh, I have to cook for this person. Yeah. This is horrifying.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, but watching that show was really cool because some of the flavors they created there, I was like, that's genius. Yeah. These people are super good at what they do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I enjoy watching shows where the people in the competition are all stars.
Yeah. Yeah. And the second thing I want to ask you is, have you ever seen it is a new Netflix show. Have you seen the show Is It Cake on Netflix?
Is It Cake? Is that the one where it's they get weird stuff and they cut it and then they have to figure it out?
The whole premise of it's kind of ridiculous, but also kind of hilarious at how ridiculous it is. But literally they'll have 6 pedestals with okay, for those listening, I'm holding a Dasani water bottle right now. They'll have 6 pedestals with what looks to be 6 Dasani water bottles, one on each pedestal.
Oh yes, I've seen.
And one of these is cake. Can you guess what it is? And they'll give him 20 seconds, and they'll be oh, I think it's number 3.
Yeah, they're saying 10 feet away or something.
And then he'll get I kid you not, at least in the first episode, he'll get a sword and be well, let's find out. And he just chops it in half, and it's it
was a water bottle.
Yeah, oh no, it was actually a water bottle the whole time. It's just so I don't know if I enjoy it because I think it's actually entertaining, or if I enjoy it because it's just so ridiculous. But I wanted to know if you've ever even seen or heard of that before.
I've seen 2 or 3 episodes of it, and because I think I watched a taco episode as early on in that series. Yeah. Which I was man, making a cake taco, shout out to those guys. Anyone who does realistic baking is
hyper realistic baking. Yeah,
that's super impressive in my mind. That's a very specific line where you can make cool stuff though. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
and so watching that one, I feel the host though he's a little over the top, but I think that's that's kind of the host's job in a way for most shows to be over the top.
Yeah,
but yeah, I think I saw a few of those where I was oh, it's 100% number 3. Number 3 is the cake.
Yeah.
And then it's number 6. And I was like, what?
Yeah. you're having
you rewind, you look at it, you're
yeah.
I don't see it.
Yeah. You're having a purple/green bell pepper moment where you're I could have swore it was this.
Yeah. Purple-green bell pepper moment.
That's funny. Well, before, I know you said you got some things you got to get to, so I don't want to keep you too much longer, but before we finish up, I have a little bit of a tradition with the podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Something I like to finish the show off with on a little bit of a different note, although this one will be a first in a way. I'll explain in just a second. But I like to finish off with a brief little segment that I call 15 quick questions. It's gonna
Okay.
be 15 questions. They're all this or that questions. So it'll be, either A or B.
All right.
And I just want you to give your off the top of your head how you're feeling right now in the moment, your answer to the question.
Okay.
The thing is, this is a bit of a special one because I tried to pick, usually all these questions are just like, just things I can think of off the top of my head and stuff like that. I tried specifically to make these all revolve around like food or culinary stuff in some way. Because I figured you would have a take on this and stuff. So some of these
I feel like pressure's on all of a sudden.
So
like
some of these
it's been tailored.
I was really trying to read. Like I was like, I got to like question 13. I was like, I have thought of every single food question I can think of. Like I was really trying hard to think of these, but I've got 15 of them here. I just want to hear your off the top of your head, your thoughts on it.
Yep.
All right, sound good to you?
Yep. Let's roll it.
All right, this is 15 quick questions with Chef Ted. Question number 1: hot coffee or iced coffee?
Ooh, iced coffee.
Pineapple on pizza? Yes or no?
Yes.
Oh, good. Okay, this one is really important to me. I withheld this. I really want to hear your thoughts on this. First off, does ranch belong on spaghetti? Yes or no?
No. Wait, is it just plain spaghetti?
Well,
spaghetti with meat
spaghetti,
sauce?
like the dish, like spaghetti with like
Yeah, I'm gonna say
meat
no.
sauce
But I
and
mean, I
stuff
haven't
like
tried it. I'd be willing to try it, but I'm gonna say no right now.
that. Okay.
So.
Well, as long as you're willing to try it, that makes my heart happy because that is.
I'm from the Midwest. We put ranch on a lot of things.
Yeah. That's a hill that I'm willing to die on. That like some
Just like
people-
pickles?
Yeah. Some people I've heard they're like, oh no, I'm never doing that. I'm like, you've got to try it. Anyways,
That's your peanut butter syrup.
yes, that is my peanut butter syrup. Pancakes or waffles?
Waffles.
Oh, good. French fries or tater tots?
Tater tots.
Would you rather eat cookie dough or brownie batter?
Brownie batter.
Italian food or Mexican food? The two heavy hitters.
I'm gonna go with Mexican.
What's better on a hot day, ice cream or popsicles?
Ice cream.
Guacamole or salsa?
Guac.
Crunchy,
Too many salsas.
crunchy or creamy peanut butter?
Creamy. 100%.
When cooking, do you want more appliances when cooking or less appliances in a more traditional way of doing things?
I'm gonna say less appliances.
Gotcha.
With
Like
caveat of depends on what I'm making that day.
Well,
you know?
yeah, I mean, it depends.
But I'm gonna say less appliances.
Yeah.
If I can do it all in one pan, it's perfect.
Yeah. Well, I see some people to be like, yeah, so I get my this Maker 3000, and like I make I wasn't sure if you were like a big appliance guy.
I have appliances, but I just hate cleaning dirty dishes.
Yeah.
That's the real
Yeah,
secret of things. Like, what gives me the less dishes?
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. Spicy food or mild food?
Spicy.
Would you rather go vegan or carnivore? The two extremes.
I'm gonna say carnivore.
Sweet or savory?
Savory.
And then this is the final 15th question. This one is not food related, but it's the one I end every interview off with. Would you rather fight one horse-sized duck or 100 duck-sized horses?
Ooh.
And I want to hear your thought process on it as well. I want to hear like what your rationale is with it.
I gotcha. I'm gonna do the one duck-sized horse, one horse-sized duck.
Yeah, one horse-sized duck.
Because horses are mean. Like a duck-sized horse. That's just like if you get kicked 100 times, like it's gonna hurt. Like they got strong legs even if they're small.
Yeah.
So and then they're fast.
Yeah.
And then a one horse-sized duck, I feel like if it's just one thing, I probably have a better chance. And so that's my rationale there.
All right.
And so
There's not a wrong answer with
Yep.
this. I love this question because I get so many different answers. Like I've heard some people be like, yeah, well, if it's just one thing, I can just focus on it. Where if it's 100, I'll get overwhelmed by it. And I've heard some people be like, yeah, well, like I can, I think I could like kick 100 horses. Like,
yeah,
I really
I
have.
feel like that's like the other argument for that one too. It's like if I just kick them all really hard, like it should be good. But it's like, when's the last time you kicked 100 times in a row?
Yeah, that's a lot of kicks. Yeah. Cool. Well, that is.
What's your go-to on that one? I gotta know. I mean, you've heard all the answers now too.
Yeah. So I lean more in the direction of one horse-sized duck because I think I would get overwhelmed by the thought of 100 tiny things around me coming after me in some way.
Tiny horses charging at you.
Like a horse-sized duck would still be very scary because like I'd be afraid the thing is just gonna like eat me like with its bill, But I feel like I could maybe get some distance between us. And
ducks are really mean though too. That's another thing.
So like they're gonna be mean, but I feel like I can like assess all my energy and like attention to the one giant duck in front of me. That's my thought process. But I just also like I don't know, kicking 100 horses would be very tiring. And horses are sturdy. I mean, even if they're small, like they're sturdy things. Exactly. So
what do you do when they just get back up after you kick them? Like you kick them 100 more times?
Yeah. But yeah, anyways, that is 15 quick questions. So thank you very much for that. And yeah, it is first and foremost, thank you very much for chatting with me today. It's been a pleasure getting to talk with you. Before we kind of finish up, I know that you work at Sweet and Savory. It's Sweet and Savory Kitchen
Classroom.
God, I get it all mixed up every single time. The Sweet and Savory Classroom, and I'll make sure if anybody's listening and is interested, whether if you're in the Chattanooga or if you're not in the Chattanooga area, you want to make the trip in. I'll make sure there's a link for that in the description of this episode, so you can go check them out. Are there any other links, websites, anything that anybody should know about?
No, I mean, I think our website has classes typically out 90 days. For those far away, I get people that come in from like Memphis and like farther out. Yeah. So would love to have even if you're making a trip here, there's a lot to do in Chattanooga.
Yeah.
I love our classroom, but hey, there's a lot of cool stuff here in town too, which, probably other people in the podcast, maybe the podcast before this and after this, they probably got some cool things that you should check out too.
Cool.
And then our socials are slowly becoming more and more active. So like our Instagram and Facebook, definitely, check it out there. We have a very small like YouTube channel where we've started putting up some like, kind of like our version of like basic stuff and,
is there a tortilla chip hack in the future?
Ooh, I don't know if I'd be allowed to get away with that. I feel like that's like delving on someone else's area. Like someone would in the comments section.
His territory.
Someone in the comments section would be like, "Oh, you just copied this."
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, no, definitely check out just the classroom website. That's where you can find all of the information. If you got questions, feel free to reach out to us. Most of the time, an email just ends its way up to one of the chefs. And for those with like foodborne allergies, I know that can be like a very scary thing when you go out to eat. I'm going to use like celiac for an example. That's a very hardcore allergy that you got to be really serious about. But if you have allergies, if you sign up for a class, just shoot us an email or like put it in the notes and just let us know, because we can always adapt recipes and go from there just to make sure you're covered.
Okay, cool. Well, I'll make sure I'll have the website and links to the socials and everything down there. So if you're listening, you want to go check out everything going on over there. If you want to get in contact with them, I would personally, if you're wanting to do a cooking class or just have a good time, I really would highly recommend it. I've been twice now. It's really fun. You get a good recipe out of it, a couple good recipes, I would say, and you'll have a lot of fun at it. So I highly recommend it. But with all that being said, thank you very much, Ted, for speaking with me today. And I really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me. This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's been really cool getting to talk to a lot of really cool people. So thank you for being one of them.
Yeah, thank you very much.
All right, and for everybody that's listening, thank you very much for listening. Thank you for supporting the show and just being along with the ride. But yeah, thank you very much. I hope you'll tune in for another episode in the future. Bye, everybody. Thanks for tuning into this episode of the podcast. As one final reminder, if you'd like to support the show, then don't forget to rate and review the show wherever you get your podcast, or share it with a friend. If you'd like to check out any links that were mentioned during the show, or follow the show or myself on social media, then feel free to head to the description of today's episode to find these links. As always, thank you again for checking out today's episode, and I really hope you enjoyed it. I will catch you all on the next episode of the podcast. See ya!